she goes, I'm such a good guy, but I can also be an asshole when I want to be an asshole. You know what I mean? And so that's the side. She goes, there it is. That's the side that keeps you regular, you know? So we, like I said, as long, there's nothing wrong with knowing yourself and who you are as far as what you are as a man and stuff like that.
All right. Welcome to the New Age Human Podcast. We have a really cool show for you today. I have Christopher Lewis, the dating expert of dating intelligence. Welcome to the show, Chris.
What's up,
Thanks for
John?
coming
How
on,
are
man.
you? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man. This is gonna be pretty cool. It's gonna be pretty interesting. Today we were talking and we came up with we wanted to talk today about relationships in today's world where you have a society that's just divided. You know, it's all or nothing for a lot of people, and relationships that have been really stable for years and years just are falling apart because whether it be financial, whether it be a different belief structure when it comes to things like the jab or things like your political beliefs. So we wanted to get into that conversation. So for everybody that, for the listener, let's get into what got you into the world of dating intelligence and kind of get a feel for what makes you so passionate about it.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So like, I know we probably had this little talk before, but we'll let our listeners know. What got me into the world of dating and relationship expert theories, the theme of all of it was just the fact that I tell people I'm just a guy who knows guys who just loves women. And I'm a big advocate of women. I want to teach guys how to be better for women, but I also want to teach women how to read the signs of when guys just go completely south. And that's one of those things where I tell people, I go, look, we're guys, we're all idiots, right? So I want to teach guys how to be better for girls and how to teach women how to read the signs. And with my background, it all got started because I grew up in a house full of women. So I had my mom and two sisters, older and younger. And I've always been that kid at the time going, you know what? They got lots of, there's a lot going on when you have a house full of women, first of all. And so I had to learn how to navigate through that. I had to learn how to understand when they go through their mood swings, when they're in their happy phases, and just the whole gamut of it. So I always tell people I felt like I was Jane Goodall, like observing gorillas in the jungle, because I really, really took my time to understand and to appreciate women. And I wanted to always be a really stand-up guy. I wanted to be that guy that wanted to be there for them and not have any ego involved when it comes down to conversations and just how to be better for yourself. And so I try to teach people how to be their true, authentic self for that reason.
All right. So tying in the ability to reach into your feminine side, to connect with females as a guy, what would you say for women? I mean, do you tell them, hey, get in touch with your masculine side, or is it a different approach?
You know what? No, I was going to actually go full circle what you just said as well. I feel like a lot of women that I actually hang out with are I have this crew of what I call a very strong independent women where they're very successful. Like my girlfriend's that type. And I think I actually based that upon my mom. My mom growing up, she raised three of us at a very young age. And my dad's amazing. Like he's always been in her life, but they just, were divorced since a very young age. But my mom always said, your father was always a great dad, but just a shitty husband. But, but they were best friends through all that time as well, which was nice. And so I learned how to also adapt and be that person, how I am right now with even my ex. I have two kids, and for me with my ex, when we split up, I always felt like there was never going to be any animosity, not only doing it for the kids, but because I was with someone for that long. You lose something along the way, but that doesn't mean that you should lose the reasons why you two ever got together. So we get along really, really well. My girlfriend of 6 years now, all of us, we get along like a big family. Like we do Christmases, we do holidays, we do everything. We've traveled together. So getting back to that, I feel like what I tell women is sometimes that they do need to lose that masculine just a little bit when they are looking for a mate. Especially if they are in a power of position and they make more money than maybe the guy that they go out with. Because a lot of them go, well, I want this guy, but I just don't think he's going to match up with me because he's going to feel inferior because I do make more, blah, blah, blah. So I usually tell them, I go, look, then just back off that hard edge because, these women always think about it or a little bit more in control because they control so much in their business side of life. You need to back off just a little bit in your personal life and just let things kind of even out some. So it is a big deal. And it is sometimes kind of hard for them to find that perfect match because they can't find someone who is going to be their equal. So yes, I do kind of, in fact, have that conversation with women as well. Women who are just looking for a guy, who just want to be with someone who's just on the same plane. I also teach them how to find their voice a little bit more because I don't want the masculine of who they're with to feel like they're, not to say pushing them around that much, but just being like a little too controlling. And so I teach women how to get that power back by just simple little things. And because I always first foremost say, John, that women always have the power more so than what guys do. And they just, and they know this, but sometimes we forget along the way. And it's just this ebb and flow sometimes where it's this chess match of everyone trying to gain top of each other and control and this and that. And I just say, look, if you both just communicate the fact that where your role is in each other's lives, it's so easy to get along. My girlfriend, for instance, is a doctor. She makes eons way more than I do, right? But at the same time, I know my lot with her. I know exactly where I feel like I have my strengths and she has her weaknesses and vice versa. So I always call it the yin and yang of dating in a relationship. Like when someone's up, the other one should be able to lift that person up. And when one's down, it's vice versa as well. So it has a give and take.
It's interesting because I feel like every single time I say it's interesting, I do this little thing where you mess with your glasses, like it's like I'm about to say something very sophisticated.
Here it comes. I want to hear it.
No, I just want to highlight that.
Give me that wisdom.
Well, it's true. There's more. Some people may argue the others end, but there's more women that are empowered now. There's more women that are entrepreneurial. There's more women in the workforce. And I've never been in that position of being a female in a power role and having it, actually, oh my God, I just saw a movie, the, Stepford Wives. Oh my God.
Is that the one? Wait, the one with Nicole Kidman? That one or which one?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is perfect. That was perfect. I literally saw this last night. And if you haven't seen it, it's Nicole Kidman is like a power woman. Like she is like her husband literally was complaining that he technically works for her. He's in the VP role when she's making 6 figures more than him, which is kind of hard to even fathom. And the movie kind of surrounds the idea of, maybe you can break it down better than me because this is your realm, but
right.
The message I got was and I don't want to give the end. The end is very spicy,
right? Well,
but
you
it's
can
just
tell your message,
the role
though,
reversal.
Yes,
like the whole thing where a lot of men are out there with very powerful women, and they're trying to get control back into the relationship, and they found a way in this movie, which is very freaky.
Okay.
So maybe you can unwrap that and maybe tie in the whole scenario with this, coupled with a dividing society where there's different belief structures. And if the relationship is being held together with belief structures, maybe that ties into it as well, where like men are like, that's the last straw. That's it. We're cutting it because you make way too much more than me. And I have different beliefs than you. So I'm wondering how you would tie that in, but I don't know where to go from this. I brought that movie up. Maybe you can first break down that movie for anybody and maybe suggest if they want to watch it. What are your thoughts on that movie?
Well, I'm just going to go off of what you said because it's been a long time since I've seen it, honestly. Like almost, I think I saw it when it first came out years ago. But to break down what you're saying is I feel like a lot of guys who feel that they can basically handle a woman, in that leadership role a little bit more. And I'm talking not only the fact that she's making more, but, just being able to deal with someone. Like you said, if what's our first quality as a male? Our first quality as a male is that we learn that, we're the providers, we're the hunters, we're the ones that go out there, and the women back in the day, and I'm going way back in the day. So whoever's listening, don't quote me on this because I am, like I said, I'm an advocate for women big time, but it was that thing. They were the homemaker, they take care of the kids and they're at home. But that role has now started reversing now where women are in the workforce. So the Me Too movement applies to this, where a lot of women want these, these rights and things, but yet they still want to be treated as a woman as well. So I feel like a lot of guys are a little bit, not to say afraid, but confused on the fact that, hey, if I want to open your door, which my mom taught me to do, I'm very chivalrous and that I believe in chivalry, in which we can have this another day. I feel like chivalry is dying, by the way. But for me, it's like, if I open a door and women I can do that myself. I'm like, I'm sure you can do it yourself, but I'm still going to do this for you. And if you take it the wrong way, then that's just something it's just another, in a place of power that they're trying to portray. Um, Once again, I'm just going to speak for myself, is the fact that I know for myself that I have a sense of something that I can still provide no matter what. And I feel like a lot of guys, who have that masculine saying like, I, me, I'm in control. I should be the one doing this. You're going to feel a little inferior. At first you might say I can handle this, but eventually you're going to feel a little inferior because you're going to feel like your worth is going to be less than what you actually want it to be. And that's where the problem starts. So, but if you, once again, I go back to the communication factor. If you communicate with your partner, hey, look, this is the role that I've taken in this situation where it's going to be beneficial for her and vice versa for you. That's where you find that even ground, so there's always something there. And like for myself, like I said, I know my role in my relationship. I know what I have to offer, and I have a lot to offer, so that has never been a problem for me. It's never been a problem for her because of the fact that we communicate a lot. And I also quite frankly know that I have no ego involved. There's moments, I'm not going to lie, where I go, fuck, I can't be that masculine and take care of this, but I'm like, fuck it. I do so many other things to make up for that. These are the things that we have to think about. So I feel like a lot of people on either end of the spectrum feel like they can't measure up per se because of the fact that they're always going to feel inferior to the other person. When in fact that the other person might sometimes be like, I never knew that I was making you feel that way, because they never communicate that this is what they're feeling. So obviously, as you know, it gets to that point where it's going to start creating a lot of friction in the relationship because they're not talking about it. And it's all about presumption, like I just feel this way and I'm not going to share it with her. But it's like, I'm not a mind reader. I'm not going to be able to read what you're feeling if you don't share with me. And sometimes just by talking about it, it's just like, wow, that wasn't so bad after all.
Well, yeah,
So,
the communication
mhm,
factor is huge,
right.
and everybody making an agreement. If I'm summarizing correctly, make sure you communicate and make clear the roles you guys play in the relationship so that no one is assuming the wrong thing,
That's
right?
correct. Or feeling lesser than the other person. It's like check in with each other, and I'm talking to your audience now. Make sure you check in with each other, validate each other, give praise to each other, find each other's love language, first of all. We all have different love languages, and really try to, try to enhance that language for the other person. Like I know like I'm a guy who loves touch. I know like some people love acts of service or or just even the words of wisdom or whatever it is. So we all have certain things that we love, but you have to really, really stay true to that and really harness that for that other person. And that keeps keeps a great relationship, by the way.
I like how you touched into the love language because I can totally see that being an issue where maybe in the what do you call it,
Yes.
the honeymoon phase of the relationship, it's whatever works.
Yes, it does.
But
Right.
then when it wears down, I'll tell you something. So during my honeymoon phase, made I would eat shrimp.
Okay.
I don't like seafood, and I don't go out of my way to eat shrimp either. But my wife loves shrimp. And when we first hung out, I made what was available at the time. We were at a friend's house and we cooked. I stirred up some shrimp scampi, I think. I like to cook for myself. And then she was like, oh, wow, he cooks. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know she liked shrimp. That's a win-win. Now I'm going to have to eat shrimp.
Yeah. Right.
And then after I think like a couple of years, I was like, I'm sorry, I don't like shrimp anymore. Like I can't. I
But
can't.
you never shared it
Um,
with her from the beginning, though. Not in a bad way. Say, look,
right.
I'll try it for you, but it's not my favorite thing. Did it ever get
Yeah.
to that point, or did you just kind of just say, well, I'm gonna, just go with it?
I think it was one of those things where like I told her it's not my favorite. Like I don't mind, I'll have it. I'm not a big seafood person, but if we do shrimp, yeah, like that's the thing I'll share with you. Like you like shrimp, I'll enjoy it with you.
Yeah.
But I never said like it wasn't like I never said the extent to how I was not enjoying the meal. And it's almost like I convinced myself that I enjoyed it and so it wasn't that bad. Maybe
Yeah.
I think I put like hot sauce or like soy sauce just to drown out the whatever flavor it was. And then you just reminded me. I'm like, one day I said, no, that's it. I can't. I'm putting my foot down. No more shrimp for me. I'm sorry.
It's
You can,
it's
and
the
then
sacrifices that we make at the beginning to make it work because
hmm
and I appreciate you saying that because it's one of those things where we want to make sure that if that's a deal breaker, that's I'm sorry, I'm not going to let that break the deal. You know what I mean? I will love shrimp for this point and then eventually be like, you know, it's not really my favorite thing and she'll start to understand because you guys have formed another bond since then, but I love the fact that
right.
you actually went full balls in doing that though.
Balls in,
Yeah.
balls in. Um, and that reminds me of just the whole thing where I lost my train of thought, but the whole I think it's interesting how we went that direction of the whole loss of masculinity, and maybe that's something we should focus on
Hmm.
because I do feel that as I'm learning my health journey and I'm talking to more of these health experts, I'm learning that a lot of the food that we eat has um, what do you call it, hormone inhibitors in the preservatives,
Yeah.
in the ingredients to keep these things fresh. And there are even studies that, and I'm not sure if you heard of this or what your thoughts are on this, but over the years, your average male has less testosterone,
Yeah.
and that huge largely plays a role because now if you have your average guy losing testosterone and then your average female using their masculine side more, in this world where we are in a capitalist world where, hey, you know what, you have the opportunity to be successful, go for it. And at the same time, nowadays, because of inflation and the economy, both people in the marriage and well, just both sides, I guess, both people in the partnership
Hmm.
have to work
Yes.
to
Right.
even survive. So I think all that comes together. But I'm very curious. What are your thoughts on the loss of masculinity, just from a social standpoint and a
Physical.
physical, like health
Yeah.
wise?
Right. Well, I'll start with the physical first. It's funny that there's all these, med spas are the new thing now. Like there's a med spa probably just like there's a Starbucks at every freaking corner, right? To keep us looking youthful. But now there's actually the med spas are now doing shoot offs of testosterone male clinics now, just specifically meant for this sort of thing. It's funny, like one of my sponsors is a med spa and her husband actually is doing the flip side now. He just opened up a male clinic where it's just all about getting your testosterone levels checked and like you can have shots and things like that and they swear by it, by the way. So I haven't been yet, but I know as we get older, we start losing a little bit and it is a big deal. um but it's the same thing as just like a woman losing estrogen or whatever the heck it is as well. So as far as like the mental side of things goes, I feel like a lot of times it's almost better for a male to let go of that side. I mean, you can still be a man, like, and I'm gonna use this phrase quite lightly. I'm sorry if I have to cuss on this one, John, but she goes, you know what, Chris? She goes, I love you, but there's just a little bit of enough dick in you to make me really like you because it's like I'm such a good guy, but I can also be an asshole when I want to be an asshole. You know what I mean? And so that's that side. She goes, there it is. That's the side that I keeps you regular. So we, like I said, as long there's nothing wrong with knowing yourself and who you are, as far as what you are as a man and stuff like that, but doesn't mean that you have to project and portray and go completely overboard just to actually make a statement. And you had said something earlier about the fact that, when we were kids, and your dad would go, you know what, man up, don't cry. You shouldn't be crying, man up. There's like, don't ever see a woman, don't ever let them see you cry. And it's like, why? Why are we holding in our feelings and holding in all this extra, I call it like, I want to call it, like trash, let's just call it trash for the day. Okay. All this extra
Sure.
baggage and trash where once you let it go, anytime that, like the other day, I'm not going to lie, I cried to two of my friends the other day, and it's like, I was talking about something, I was kind of upset and, I'd been holding it in, for a few days and I finally had to let it out. And once I let it out, I was like, wow, okay, I feel so much better. I can move on now. And I literally, once I was done, it just let go of all this inside just crap and just made me feel so much better because I got to express myself and talk about it. And the way that they made me feel and affirmed and validated me, that's why the crying came out. Cause like, dude, you got your stuff down, don't worry about this. And so once I let it out, it just affirmed that it made me more confident. It made me more, it pushes me even more so. And it just put me on my right path. But when you hold all that extra baggage, it just slows you down. And a lot of people can't let go of things. Men especially, like we hold a lot, we don't want to share. We hold in a lot of things and like you'd be surprised on how much free your life would be. And that's how I live my life. And I think this is why, we're probably going to the next part of the discussion where I don't like have any, I don't choose sides. I don't have any, I don't see black or white. I only see gray, and when someone comes and poses something to me, I try to really understand both sides of things. Like if, for instance, especially in the relationship space, if someone comes to me, hey, this person's doing this to me or da da da, I try to look at both sides of things by giving them, you can either do it this way or you can do it this way, to where it gives them a choice, but it's not just one way only. So that's how I live
Mm.
my life by.
Moving into that other topic where keeping a relationship together, even though you have increasingly opposing belief structures. And if you have one person that is a strong personality where it's like, I've decided it's this or only this,
Right.
and then you have the other person that is more gray area, accepting, but doesn't want to be taken advantage of, how would that work? I do feel like the person that would be more accepting would need more advice at that situation. What would you
Of
say to
course.
that person?
Um, for the first, first and foremost, I feel like if it's just got to the point where it's just completely opposite, I don't think that those two people would be together in the first place. But I do know that things change over time as well. That's why we, as a couple, people realize that it's an ebb and flow. Like you grow apart, because you grow, first of all, right? We grow as individuals. And if we're growing as individuals, how do we continuously grow with a partner? Think about that, right? We have to really check in. We have to continuously, I feel like we go apart, we come back, we go apart, we come back. Now, with that being said, we're going to form a lot of life differences of opinions on where we're at in our life. We're going to form maybe politically or maybe religiously, maybe just personally, right? So I feel like if you can talk about it and find some sense of middle ground, you can probably survive it, because you have to go back to your core. And what's the core? Why are you guys together in the first place? I was talking to my girlfriend about this. We were laughing because she's super busy at the hospital. I'm super busy with my branding of what I'm doing here and things like that. And our lives right now are just apart. But we have to find that middle ground, that common ground bond. And that common ground bond is, for us, it's music. Like, we love to dance and we love music. So we have to make sure that we check in enough with each other to make sure that we actually have that thing together that we truly love. Now, with that being said, what's our differences here? There's not much differences of what you're really talking about, but in theory it kind of is, because, once again, she even said, she goes, Chris, like, you're off doing your events with your podcasting and your dating stuff and your branding. I'm not involved in that because it's just not something that I invite her all the time, but she's just busy with work, and vice versa. When she's at the hospital doing her dinners and bringing on new doctors into her group and things like that, it's not my realm, right? So we're at completely different opposites right now, John, but our core values are the same. And our thing that keeps us together is always trying to figure out what's our main through line. It's the love of music, and it's the love of why we got together. So whether it be politics or whether it be religion, we've seen a lot of people get together who might be of Jewish descent, since I'm in California, and who might be of a different background in religion, but they find a way to make it work. It's the same way of saying let's make it easy. We celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah together. That's a common bond, but there's completely difference on what they believe in their religious views, but they found a way to combine them together. So I always think that there could be a way to find that bond and keep anything going. Um, if you want to go even one further, let's talk about friends. If we had all the friends that were the same of us, it would really be kind of boring, actually. But I'm sure, you have, like, I have my sports friends, I have my movie friends, I have my go out friends. We all have different friends of walks of life, but that doesn't mean that I don't like them because they don't like to go dancing, or they don't like to go, for instance, they don't like to go, to the movies, let's say, right? So we have those friends for those certain reasons. So there's always a mismatch of things that we do in our life. So why can't we just combine them into one person, theoretically?
Mm. Well, and I do, to add to that, I do see myself doing something similar where I have friends that do love to talk about stuff, um, like sports. I used to play sports. I played all kinds of sports, but I don't like to follow the professional side of it is just not
Hmm.
my thing. So when people get into that long drawn out conversation of this person being traded with that, that's it. I'm like, all right, my time here is done, and I'm out. I appreciate you guys. Have fun.
Right.
I'm going this way,
You don't look any less of them, right? At all.
no, I'm
Exactly.
not like you're idiot. Sometimes. No, I'm
Right.
kidding.
Your sport
um,
sucks. No, I'm kidding.
I love because I have nothing attached to it. I love messing with friends and say, "Who's your favorite player?" And they're like, "Oh, this person." I'm like, "Oh, he sucks." And then I just walk away, and you can see, they say you're as big as what bothers you, and so
Right.
I'm like testing, does this really bother you? And I'm sorry. Um, but sometimes testing the limits does work in a fun way, so that at least if they explode, don't go there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You got to push the boundaries. We all have to push boundaries to see what we can
Just push
take,
those
right?
buttons.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we do with our partners, right? As much as we can every day. It's like you go, I'm going to go a little bit farther to see what this person can take. Then when you see it, you go, oh, don't want to go there again.
Exactly. I
Hmm.
love antagonizing my wife, and she loves antagonizing me and joking around. And if you do it enough, right? They know when you're joking,
Yeah.
and then you're not being taken serious anymore. Which is, I don't know, maybe that's not a good thing all the time, but I think it's fun to. I think that is where we find common ground. Me and my wife, we find a lot of common ground with just joking around. And if we're upset and she does something that bugs me and I do something that bugs her, I would joke around like, all right, do you want to fight? Like, I will beat the crap out of you right now.
I
But
love
she
that.
knows I'm not going to do
Of
anything.
course.
But like, because I said it like that, I'm like, you
Yeah.
know what?
It
You
takes
want to
the
fight? Like,
pressure off
let's,
of you, doesn't it?
yeah.
Hmm.
And then she laughs. I try to make her laugh like at least once a day
I love
because
that.
life is stressful.
Yeah.
And even if I have to poke holes at myself, and I think that's a big part of keeping a relationship together is just finding that fun time that like you were saying. But I'm not sure if we went into it. What if there was like one piece of advice that you can give that person that may be in a relationship that they're the, I don't want to say submissive one, but
Okay.
the one that feels like they need to hold more power,
Yeah.
and the other person holds all the power. And let's say, like at what point do you say, what, it's enough is enough. We need to cut ties, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you have
Cut
something where
ties
you're
in
like,
which ways? What do you mean? Like cut
as
ties?
in go your separate
Okay, like
ways?
you're done. They're done. Like it's the relationship is no more, right?
Right, because like, how do you know when it's toxic? You know how you have
Yeah.
friends,
Yep.
family where it's like extremely toxic,
Yeah.
they
Toxic
don't see
relationships.
it,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? But they stick together. Like, is like, I mean, is there a way to get through to the other side, so to speak?
Well, yeah. Wow. That's a full one there. I mean, this like it's like we were some of my therapist friends for that one. No, I'm kidding. Like there's like the narcissistic behavior. There's like, the like, but in like not even dealing with that, but a toxic relationship, if you're going to talk about that, is the fact that, and I heard you saying something about someone feeling submissive the whole time, where they feel like they're not being heard. I like always using that term, like you're not feeling like you're being heard, because that's ultimately what it is, right? So
And I would like to add in for specifically because I know someone listening is thinking this, where I'll say on my side of things, just and I interrupted to
no,
clarify because I
go ahead.
really wanted to bring that point
Hmm.
across. If you're familiar with the term, oh my God, you're a sensitive person, right? You are an empath, right? You're
Hmm.
empathetic to people, and sometimes you don't want to fight back, and the
Right.
person wants to fight, but you don't want to fight back,
You're
and like
passive aggressive in the theory, right?
passive aggressive.
Hmm.
So we're talking about that person because
Okay.
I've been there, and I know specific people have been there as well, and are still there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's a tough one. All I can say about that, if you're like John said, if you feel like you're that type of person and you're not being heard, you feel like you're being a little more passive aggressive or submissive, however you want to put it. Most of the time that the first thing that happens in this situation is that it's almost to a point where it's like a pressure cooker. They either lash out too much to where it just creates this balls out argument and it just isn't going to go anywhere. Or you have to really, really try it to like make the other person understand what you're going through or what you need, let's say, by just once again, sitting them down, voicing out guidelines of what you feel like are missing out of this relationship. And I'm only going on the fact now if you're going to stay, right? If it's not to that point where you want to leave yet, right? So, and there's still hope. So you have to really sit the other person down and say, look, and there's ways to talk to people. And I feel like that's something that people miss out as well. Most people don't want to be talked at. If you want to really get down to this and really have the other person understand and listen and communicate, you have to really be open to how each of you are best at your communication. There's that thing of saying fighting fair versus just kind of going for the throat, and everyone has a different fighting style. It's the same way with communication style. How, like right now I'm talking to you, John, how am I going to figure out the best way to communicate something when I know it might shut you down, for instance, right? It might be a trigger for you to be like, oh, I don't want to hear this. And all of a sudden you shut down, you become really cold, right? So there's all those avenues and all these doors we have to pass through in order to get to the center of that person going, okay, I'm here. I hear what you're saying. I'm empathetic to you. I want to be more understanding. I want to really help and not be that person to you anymore. And I feel like there's a way out of that. On the flip side, if it's just a toxic relationship and it's just to the point of where it's really bad and you feel like you're stuck in it, this is something where I have to be honest, you might have to go seek out help for this, because no matter what your friends might say, no matter what advice you get from family, it's the only way you're going to get out is if you have to do it for you. Let's be honest, right? You're not going to get out of it by just someone saying, hey, you know what? You're in a bad relationship. Well, you should do this, or you should do this, because we all have someone who can say, you should, but what do you want? And that's what I've literally helped a girl get out of her divorce after a week of meeting her. And this was actually last Podfest, actually. I met
Wow.
her and she was really upset about something. I said, you want out? She goes, yes. I go, well, let me guide you how to get out, but you've got to really understand what I'm saying here. And you have to really, the words I'm using this is what you say to him on how to get out. So he doesn't get angry. So he doesn't lock the door. He doesn't kick you out. And she did everything I said. And a week later, she was packed and moved out. She goes, oh my God, it works.
Wow.
And I said, because you have to understand the other person's language before you just go balls in, shooting guns ablaze. And this is what I need and being demanding. No one's going to listen to that. It's just like a child having a tantrum at that point. So people shut down. So in order to really get out of it, you have to really, first of all, want to get out of something, first of all. And it's not easy. Let's be honest. What do you have? You have a life with this person. You have a connection. You have things latched onto this relationship. But you have to really, really, really ask yourself deep down and make a commitment to saying, I need to seek the help to really get out of this. And for me, it's just, I could say therapy is the number one thing for that, because first of all, if you don't love yourself enough to really think that you need something for yourself better, then you're never going to get out of this. So, and I'm not going to call you the victim as well, because some people play that role as well, where they feel like it's just, they feel poor, helpless me. Poor me, I can't get out of this. I feel like I'm being beat down or whatever it is. It's like, no, you can gain your power back. I feel like I try to teach a lot of people how to gain your power back with just simple little things. And they're surprised on how easy it really is if it's done the right way.
Wow, and that's an interesting. I like the story of you helping someone at Podfest, which
Hmm.
was pretty cool, and guiding them. And something that keeps coming up is that love language. Do
Right.
you use that love language a lot when giving advice? And if so, could you summarize maybe
Um,
a couple of them?
I honestly say, I'm going to say I don't. But because it's like, I just feel like when I'm in the flow, it's just something that I do. But I can say the fact that, but once again, if you know the person that you're with well enough, most people, I didn't even know who this person really is. But deep down, you kind of know who they are. Let's be honest. You meet someone, you kind of know if he's going to be an asshole or she's going to be a bitch or whatever the hell it is, or if they're a good person or they're going to be a pushover. We know all these
Yeah.
signs at the beginning. Some people just, they'll go a little bit too much over control and go, well, if they're going to be that way, I'm going to walk all over them. Or if they're going to be this way, then I'm going to act this way. Right. So if you know how the person is, you should know what's going to push their buttons. You should know what's going to make them feel good. And you should be able to find that balance. Like you just said with your wife, when you guys are about to argue, when you can joke around with her to kind of, tone it down a little bit. Right. But once again, if you do it at the wrong time, you're out. You might as well just start running right now, or she's going to come after you with a knife and probably try to stab you at this point, probably, right? In theory, but we have to really learn how to catch the right times for certain things. It's the same thing when I tell people in the dating space there's moments where guys, especially, we're talking to a girl and they just say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And all of a sudden you're like, now you're out. You had this person, you had her attention, but now you either went in too fast, or you said something too stupid, or you just did something that just wasn't appropriate. And now you've just lost it all from there because you're not reading the signals. And so that's something I try to teach people. So just read the signals, more than anything else. That's the best way that I can say it. And so as far as the love languages go, you know, we know what we should have as your love language. I think everybody should take the test, by the way. You should take the love language test. It is a lot of fun with your partner, whether you be newly dating or in a long relationship. You'd be surprised on how much you're sitting there go, oh man, wow, that really is it. Um, so like I said, I don't really share that often, but I guess it just comes across that way because once again, it stems from communication. And I feel like if you learn how to communicate with the person, that should be a love language itself, communication. I don't know why it's not, but it should be learning how to communicate. That should be a language in itself because it is an ebb and flow.
And I'm sure it's part of one of the types because communication is the whole point of the
Hmm.
love language
Right.
understanding, right? So that
True.
you can communicate correctly. So maybe you're hitting on the main point of what it's all about and now just kind of dissecting it. But yeah, like if you know the person and it kind of flows, then by all means kind of roll with it. And
Right.
life's about taking chances as well. And interesting, I wanted to ask you, maybe we can end off on advice for someone who got out of a long relationship and now they have to go back into the dating world. And you tell me if this is
Yeah.
like too much, but
No, you're
they
right
have to
on it.
go
Go ahead.
back
Hmm.
into the dating world and it's a different world where
Yeah.
today it's like, do I open the door? Do I not? Should I be masculine from what I remember I was,
Right.
or should I not? How feminine should I be? What I don't know what clothes I'm going to wear because I'm going to offend somebody, or what topics should I
Right.
talk about? And I have my answer, but I'm very curious on
Okay.
your answer as far as for those people that are more against the mainstream media. Someone that just doesn't trust the government,
Okay.
doesn't trust the medical system, that's going to niche you down a little bit. Like, what's some advice for that person?
Right. Well, we'll go from the beginning. I'll ride that one to the end. So I'm going to ride the wave from the start of that, but I'm going to get on the big kahuna wave on this one. So, for someone getting out of a long relationship and, who is now in a new space of finding, what you just said, just finding love, first of all, and it's been a while. That was me, I'm not going to lie. Like I was in a relationship for 17 years. And
Hmm.
when we were breaking up, a part of me was like, I didn't know my worth anymore. Like I was like, do I still look the same? Am I still relevant? Do I still have something to offer someone out there? So I got on dating apps, like, and by the way, that was a whole new spin. I was like, I might as well learn how to use a freaking computer as a 5-year-old at this point. So I was like, what is going on?
Oh,
Swipe left, swipe right, all this crap. I don't understand it. These people don't look like what they look like. And so I went out on 2 dates. The first one was great. She was a little bit older than me, and she goes, "You know what?" She goes, "You're amazing, but I just don't feel like you're ready." And I said, "Well, I'm just out in the world right now, just trying to explore and see what I am ready for." Right? I think I'd been like maybe 4 or 5 months removed. We were still in separation phase, and then my second date was the one that solidified me, where I met this girl out. We were at this restaurant, and 10 minutes in, like we were just hot and heavy at that point, and I was like, I found my worth again. I was like, I'm relevant. I feel like I'm built again. So I have all these things that Chris Lewis was. It's all back now. And that's all it took for me, right? And I found my stride pretty quickly. But here's the funny part about this, John. When we were done with that, I said, instead of taking Uber, say, hey, since you're close, I'll take you home. No big deal. Dropped her off. We kissed in the car and I dropped her off. I drove 5 minutes away, pulled over and started crying. And I was like,
oh wow.
because I was like, what does this mean? Like, I was so freaking scared that I was like, I am single now. I'm out in the world. And I was scared, because although I found my worth at that point, it was just something of me going, whoa, like it was like, shock value of saying, this is reality for me now. I am now out in the world again. Now I need to find a new partner, and if I want to, or I'm out there on my own again, sort of feels. So it was a little scary, which everyone feels that way after being off the market for so long, because you don't know your worth. So when I started my podcast and my blog before that, that was one of the things I tell people is like, first of all, you want to know your worth. What is your worth to you? And everyone needs to discover that. And it takes time. It's not easy to do, but it takes like baby steps again. Like if you're in an accident, you have to learn how to walk again. It's just taking those measurements to get back to who you ultimately are. And it took a minute, but I found that person again. I found who I was. So to answer your question, when it comes down to adding layers up, you know, things have changed since COVID. I don't believe, like, especially with all the government changes and just now with people the way that they are out in the space right now, medicine, vaccines, all that stuff, there's going to be a push and pull on opposites, of opposing, like, we believe in this, we don't believe in that. Where is your stance on that? That's what you have to figure out for yourself. And one of the only things that I can say to you is the fact that if you do have a stance on something, is it really, really worth that much of it to really put you out with just meeting someone who's a good person? You're going to be missing out on a whole life of people if you're so, let's say, left wing or right wing, that you're missing all this stuff in the middle. So you have to really, really decide on how important is that choice that you're making and what's your stance on that. And are you willing to be flexible? Just
Yeah.
because you believe in, let's say, let's use the vaccination, for instance, right? Let's say I have the vaccination and let's say like my girlfriend doesn't, right? Is that really going to, like, be throwing the towel? Is that going to, well, no, I can't date you anymore. Sorry, you're not vaccinated. It's like, what does that really mean? That's her choice. So am I really going to be that much of an indifference person because of my stance on, I want the vaccine. I think people should have it. And you don't have it because you don't feel like it's going to mess you up and you don't really think you need to have it. No, it shouldn't affect that whole role of people. It's the same with, once again, I'm a person of color. That's how I've lived my life like that. I've lived in a whole world of just white around me, let's just be honest. And so for me, I've navigated that space really well because I want people to see me not as a color, but just as a person. And if once you meet me and you just let go of all that, strip me down to just hearing a voice and just getting along, that's what life's about. And that's what it should be about. You can have your points of view. I get that, but that shouldn't affect a whole of what you want out of life. That's just a small part of your life. So this is where I play neutral all the time. Or once again, I said before, I look at both sides. I try to understand both sides, and I try to sit there and go, what's my opinion out of this? Let's just form an opinion from all the facts, not just basing it on hearsay and theory.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to your point, um, don't I like the idea of not judging someone by a decision that they made and putting them into an extreme category, because a lot of
Right.
times we make decisions based off of a lack of understanding. And I have a friend that is in that boat where they were, let's say, I'll just say they got vaccinated. I'm like, I don't want to get vaccinated.
I still
And
love you,
then
John. Still love you.
but this is like,
Doesn't bother me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But my friend, we connected on like just other things. We like to talk about conspiracies, what we think's going on and whatnot. So we connected on a bunch of other stuff, and we were just like on the same boat of a lot of things. And then we were able to find mutual respect. Now we're like
Yeah.
best buds. And I didn't let that decision define that person. And then at the same time, that person in this specific situation
Okay.
regretted their decision for the vaccination and stuff. But that was just that situation. I never at one point said, you're dumb for doing that. It was more of like, hey, look, there's other
Right.
stuff that we got to deal with. What are your thoughts on this? Because they were in a similar boat as me on other agendas that were like,
But the good news is you started a conversation, and that's where it starts from. Is there's no
yeah,
judgment. You
yeah,
actually had a
yeah,
conversation to understand each point of view. I get that. I think that's great.
yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
A
Yeah.
lot of people miss out on that. It's just like the same way of just like, let's put, once again, the Super Bowl, right? Yesterday, you have two teams against each other. You're going
Hmm.
for the same prize as that same golden goal, right? Is to win. But when it's all said and done, are you really mad at the other team for, you know what I mean? They go out, they shake, they do whatever it is. And most of them are friends already. So it's just a part of it's an end game to like, what is it? An ends to a mean, pretty much. But you have to really go back to your core values. And that's just, like for me, it's just, I just want people to be good. I just like, if you're a good person, that's all I care about. I've met some of the most racist people in the world, John, honestly. And I feel like I have changed their opinion on how they feel just because I'm just a good person. And I could see underneath all that other stuff, which I don't care about. You be racist, you do you. But once you met me and you respected me at that point in time, I appreciated that, which means that there's a good person underneath all. They just have gone on a different path. They've chosen a different route, which is okay with me. I can't change you for being who you are. But what I can do is I can actually start a conversation to show you that there's more to life than just one way.
Hmm. Hmm. And some advice I was given at a young age from my mother, where she said, just be careful because there are, it's going to sound bad, but there are just really sick people out there and they just
Right.
need help, right?
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't, you know how it's easy to label someone
Yes, there is. Yeah.
as their decisions, and like you're evil, you
Hmm.
are your decisions, you are your career, you are this, you are that. And that helped me think of people as people are people,
Yeah.
and people make decisions based off of what they know at the current moment.
That's
So
correct.
don't shun people for decisions that they made, whether you believe in it or not. Judge the character, like you said, judge them in the darkness as if
Right.
you only heard their voice. And I'm not saying go on darkness dates, but they're all, that could be a different episode, those dates in the dark.
Dates in the dark. I like that. Yeah.
Right.
It's almost
Um,
like that same saying, like, like, and we've heard this a lot. I've heard it a lot lately to a few people where they said, if you're the smartest one in the room, then, then you're just done. If you feel like you're the smartest one in the room, you have no more to learn, then sorry for you. I'm really sorry for
mhm.
you.
Yeah, yeah, and there's always something to learn.
Hmm.
You can learn how smart you are. You can to touch on the ego, but I thanks again
You're
for coming
welcome.
on and breaking down your wisdom and sharing us your story and some of the struggles that you went through. Because I'm sure someone was inspired, and maybe someone is currently right now in that situation where you are, and maybe they turn on, I was gonna say turn on the radio, no, or listening to this on the way back from a date, and they're like, I think I found it, but
Yeah.
then fighting the tears, and you're like, just let it go, right? Just
Right.
let it go,
You got to
find
let
your
it go.
boys and just let it go.
Because if you
um
once you let it go, you're not harboring all that extra, like I said, all that extra bad energy. Let's get rid of it.
mhm.
So, like I said, I'm willing to grow and to learn every day in this life, and there's so much out there for all of us. But I feel like, people just feel like they have a way, and it's just like, and some you say, that way sometimes is right for the most part, but it's just not right all the time. You've got to be able to be flexible.
No, well, yeah, I agree. I
Hmm.
agree. Well, so if now that everybody knows you, where can they find you to get some advice or learn a little bit more of your dating intelligence?
Thanks, John. You guys, you can find me at Dating Intelligence on social media, and just look up my own personal, which is at Fetch Sport, FETCHSPORT. That's my own personal, and just started my dating coach business about 3 weeks ago, so I'm getting that ramped up. So if you need any advice and help, please reach out to me, and you can look for me once again on Instagram, which is probably the easiest way because that's my most social media on Dating Intelligence. And anything, if you want to listen to Dating Intelligence, the podcast, it's on YouTube is our biggest amount of views. We probably get about 40,000 views per episode per week.
Nice.
And on audio as well. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on everything. So you can find us anywhere on that too. But please take a listen. It's a lot of fun. I'm kind of snarky and fun. And my co-host, she's great. I always tell people, I go like, I'm the Howard Stern. She's my Robin. And we just have amazing guests on, and we just talk about all walks of life. It's just not about dating. We've talked about anything in the middle of what life is about. And that's what relationships are, right? It's just about learning how to just, which we all have. We all have the same problems. We all have the same issues, and we all want to know. And that's what we deal with.
Right, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm checking it out myself. You heard it, guys. If and now as we close out and everything, as usual, just if you like what you hear and if you think this is good for somebody, please share with a friend that might. Don't be obvious about it and be like, you know what, you need this. You're. I was staring. I feel like how do you like tell someone to share dating advice and like, hey, I think this was really cool. You might like it. Whatever.
Right.
Pass it on.
Well, it's really funny though. It's like everyone shares a piece of dating advice every single day of their life, because when you're in a relationship, we share dating advice in theory because you're talking relationships, right? You always have, I'm sure someone right now could probably shaking their head going, yeah, he's right. He's right. We all have a friend calling you one day and it's all about something to do with the relationship, right? Well, what did you do today? Well, today I'm going out with my family or da da da. That's relationship stuff. And we talk about it all the time. So it's around us.
All right. So yeah, be casual about it. Till next time. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. Thanks for having me.